I've been in real estate for 5 years, I've been running a team for 4, and I just hit my 2-year mark at Real Broker. And I want to talk about how is Real Broker specifically for team leaders in this video. And not to bury the lead here, but I think Real Broker is growing so quick and is becoming the fastest growing real estate brokerage in the world because it's so good for team leaders. This is Oscar, by the way. He's coming with us. Sit, sit, sit. Right. What? So I did a review a year ago. The reality is a bunch of my opinions are the same about Real Broker overall. Feel free to go watch that, especially if you're not a team leader. Again, this is really thinking about how the team leader fits into Real Broker and their systems and all that. The splits, as far as I'm concerned, they're as good as it gets. I came from a 100% brokerage previous to Real Broker, and I make way more and pay way less at Real Broker than I did my previous 100% brokerage. Lower performing agents might make more at 100% brokerage. And this is something I've told friends of mine who are real estate agents, where it's like, there's a level. I don't know what the threshold is exactly, depends on what 100% brokerage commission you were at. But if all you care about is walking away with the most money as far as splits are concerned, there's just some threshold, and you can do the math and figure it out, but there's some threshold where you'll start to make more money at Real Broker, not just per transaction, but in total. And if you're in a situation where you can hit elite agent, which is somewhere in the ballpark of like 25 to 30 transactions, you can hit elite agent at Real Broker. If you can do that, to me, it's a no-brainer. I don't care what you're paying at your other brokerage. You can make more money at Real Broker. That said, as a team leader, you'll have a $12,000 cap. Your agents on your team can either choose $6,000 cap or $12,000 cap. Most of mine do the $6,000 cap, and because they're just maybe not as interested or confident that they'll hit the elite agent and get those benefits on the back end. So if you're coming over to Real Broker from some other brokerage, whether it's 100% brokerage or something else, the agents who perform less, right, who sell fewer homes, are the ones who are gonna feel the split more. Right, the 85, 15 up to a $6,000 cap. They're gonna feel that more than the agents who are doing a lot, and certainly than you. The truth is, it's better for you than it is for the individual agents on your team. What's up, buddy? As it pertains to the onboarding process, I don't know if this is a review as much as it is a note. I have not utilized the onboarding process enough to have a really good opinion of it, but I've had a few agents join the team and also join Real, in the last couple of years. So I feel like I'm not good enough at it, for one, so that's kind of taking ownership. But maybe more importantly, or the note that I have for Real, is that it's just not as easy as it probably could be. I think there could be more clarity there. I've asked the agents who joined my team, hey, how was that? And they're like, I don't know, I felt like I wasn't doing everything that I was supposed to be doing, and there wasn't enough feedback on that. I feel like every brokerage review I've ever seen, there's always a section about culture, right? And so many brokerages at a corporate level are kind of obsessed with oh, we have the coolest culture. And I think a lot of that is because that's very often the only selling point, right? Is hey, work for us, we're cool and we're hip and we're not dinosaurs. And I think that Real Broker, while being pretty obsessed with culture and at a corporate level, that's true. I think the reality is that the real culture, the real vibe, is set within the agents on a more local level. Real Broker has the work hard, be kind slogan. Great slogan, right? But at the end of the day, it's just a slogan if people don't kind of feel that way and act that way and ultimately adopt that ideology. And the thing that I really want to drill down into is that I think there's two types of cultures within real estate brokerages. And the thing that I kind of want to drill down into is the fact that I think there's usually like kind of two different types of cultures that can exist at a real estate brokerage. One is like, you know, you have friendships and you're, you know, buddies with the people at your brokerage, and you're sitting at the office shooting the shit at the office, wasting time, but whatever, you know, you're still, it's fun, right? So there's that. And then there's like more of a collaborative style of culture, right? Where maybe you're not shooting the shit as much, right? But because you're not, you have to go out of your way to set up very specific times and very specific, you know, meetings or really intentional gatherings, right? Because if you're like, hey, let's just hang out, who's going to show up to that, right? Honestly, people still do that, right? There still are these like meetups, and that's cool. It's just a little bit of camaraderie. But the thing that I'm really after in a brokerage, as far as culture goes, is like true collaboration. It's one of the biggest reasons I left my old brokerage and joined Real Broker, is that there are people who are performing at a level that I would love to be at, and they're actually willing to share their secrets. When it comes to branding and marketing, I really love sort of just the simplicity of the brand of Real, right? If you're a team on Real, you have to still use the brokerage's logo and, you know, name and all that stuff. And I don't think it really gets any simpler or cleaner than just Real. And they also got permission to just use Real, right? So it's not even Real Broker. You can just say Real. You can just have the logo Real on a sign. That's awesome and so simple and so clean. It works for so many different aesthetics or different, you know, brand identities or whatever, if you want to call them that. That said, if like an individual agent was just trying to plug into some brokerages, like lead generation situation, that doesn't exist at Real Broker. I'm talking to team leads here, right? If you're still watching, you're a team lead. Even if it's a tiny team, you know that like your brand is king, right? Who gives a shit if a brokerage wants to dish out leads? To me, that's just not how I want to do it. It's not the brand I'm interested in creating. It's not how I'm interested in working real estate. I want to work with people who want to work with me, and my brand will help me do that. So if you're looking for like open house signs, right, or for sale signs or stuff like that, like Real Broker isn't really going to provide that for you. Of course, you can buy them, you know, and they have designs and stuff like that all ready to go. But really, you know, it's on you to build your brand. And hopefully, as a team leader, you know that and you already feel good about that, right? That's a good thing to you. It's not a bad thing that you don't just have some more generic brokerage level brand to just plug into. And then lastly, Real Broker doesn't have any like agent or public facing advertising at all. The way Real Broker grows, you know, their audience, grows their numbers, grows their book of business is through the revenue share program, right? It's by agents and team leads attracting more agents to Real Broker. So from a public standpoint, you might have sellers saying like, well, I've never heard of Real, right? So you just have to have a way to deal with that objection. But I kind of love the idea that it's a more like grassroots, word of mouth kind of way of growing the company. And because of how it's built, because of how it attracts high producers, team leads in a really, really interesting way, which I'll touch more on still, I promise. Because of that, that's why it's growing at such an impressive clip. Good job, buddy. And then I think another thing that a lot of team leads in particular are looking for is like support and really kind of like help for the agents who are on their team, right? And I think that is really quite good at Real Broker. And there's a few kind of sections of it, right? Number one is like training of agents. There is a thing called Real Academy that I think is a really exceptional resource for agents who actually use it. I think probably like the biggest downside of Real Academy is that it's too easy not to use, right? So it is actually really, really easy to use, but I think for agents who aren't as motivated, they're not quite go go-getters. It's just so easy just to never ever once log on to Real Academy and never like grow from it at all, because it's a really exceptional resource. There's so much information a couple clicks away. But maybe because those things are often recorded and they live there forever, it doesn't feel like there's any sort of like requirement or need to hop onto one in particular, right? You're like, well, I can always go do that, but then they never do. So I think ultimately like training and support for agents in that regard is top-notch, truly world-class. When it comes to support for from like an administrative standpoint, I also think Real Broker does a very good job with how much they're doing and at the scale that they're operating at. I think they're really crushing it. That said, your main sort of bits of support are from your broker, who you can usually reach out to directly. I have a good relationship with our broker, or support at therealbrokerage.com, support at therealbrokerage.com, and basically reaching out to them that way or through the app. This boy is getting a little stir crazy, so come on, let's hang out here. We got just a couple more. And online support is generally very quick to respond, but it's a little less hand-holdy than if you were at like a 100-person boutique brokerage, right? So if that's something that you really want for you and your agents, just take note of that. But I tend to think as the team leader, you have to now start to put that guidance and that leadership into place. In the video I did last year, like almost exactly a year ago, I griped, and I think rightfully so, about sort of the turnaround of referrals, specifically the payment on referrals. So if I referred a client out to one of my referral partners, the amount of time it took to actually get paid for that, it took, in my opinion, way too long, and it was just way too annoying to like do what they asked for to get paid. And I understand that, you know, they have a lot of checks coming in and things like that, and it's harder for them to keep track. But one of the things that I've been the happiest about in the last year is that they've like improved that tracking system, and so it's become much simpler, and the amount of time a referral just sits on my app, like where I know it's closed but I have not received the money, that has gone down dramatically. Again, a huge improvement on that. And then because you don't have a brick and mortar and like the main offices are not in the state that we're in, right, something like mailing a check can be a little more abstract, right? It can feel a bit more like you're unsure if you're doing the right thing and sending it to the right address. For me, I think it's an address in New Jersey, which feels strange, but it's the right place for it to go. And a lot of that is just more a result of the fact that like almost everything these days is wired. So there's way fewer times where you actually have to send a physical check somewhere. Good boy, buddy. Good boy. So to talk about why I think Real Broker is genuinely the best option that I've seen, right? Maybe there's something boutique that I don't know about out there that could be a better fit, but why I think it is the best fit. At first, it kind of starts with why I think it's a really good fit for high producers, right? And I think it is a good fit for high producers by design. I believe that whether by design or on accident, Real Broker has created an ecosystem that rewards high producers at a very hard to beat level. And I think by default, every team leader is a high producer. So for example, when you hit Elite Agent, you get $16,000 in stock back. And at that point, you've basically paid in $17,000, right? So that's been like your whole year. I have videos on the splits and the breakdowns of that, really in-depth videos on that. So feel free to watch one of those if you're interested. But by the time you hit Elite, you literally get $16,000 in stock, and you've already received capping stock as well. I don't know, it's somewhere around like $500 to $1,000 worth of stock. So by the time you hit Elite, you're at a break-even point, right? And if you have a team, Real Broker has revenue share, right? So that breaking even, that's if none of the agents on your team make any transaction at all, right? Do anything. So by having an agent on your team, whether you bring in one agent or whether you start your team at Real Broker, it doesn't matter, because when you come over to Real Broker, all of the agents on your team are considered like in your downline or whatever, right? You have attracted them. And so you make a small portion of revenue share off of every single transaction that they make. And depending on if your agent is a $6,000 cap or a $12,000 cap, you either get $2,000 maximum a year in revenue share or $4,000 maximum a year in revenue share. So let's say you have 5 agents on your team, all of whom cap, right? Not hit a lead agent, just cap. They just pay in the $6,000. Then those 5 agents, you get $10,000 from them in revenue share. Again, you're not getting that at other brokerages that don't have ecosystems set up like this. And I believe that you're not just like being a leech on these agents, right? They all have the ability to attract agents as well. Then that agent would become in your tier 2, but then they have tier 1 agents. With your team members, you can choose if somebody attracts somebody to your team, are they in their tier 1 and your tier 2, or are they like a 50-50 split? I think it'd be silly not to have them be in your tier 2 and give that incentive to the agent who attracted them. But then the beauty of that and Real Broker's incentive structure is that it's encouraging the agents on your team to attract people to either Real Broker or to your team, and they get a benefit from it. And so, for example, 3 years ago, that calendar year before moving to Real Broker, I was at a 100% brokerage commission. We did somewhere around 70 transactions, 60 to 70, right in there. I paid $66,000 to that brokerage to do business there. The year after that at Real Broker, between stocks, between revenue share, I was up like $30,000, $40,000 the next year. A net positive of $30,000 to $40,000 versus a net negative of $66,000. And that's pretty much it.